Iran is a complicated country, but I'm only going to talk about the name of it today, which is in itself pretty complicated because there are two names for the country. There's Persia and there's Iran. So what's the deal with that? Why are there two names? How'd that happen? And also, what's the deal with Farsi? That's what I'm going to talk about in this video. So first of all, you have two names. There's Persia and there's Iran. Now, Persia was the old name for the country. That's what everyone called the country back before 1935. Depending on what your native language was, whether it was English or French or German, you said some version, some variation on the word Persia. Now, the word Persia came from a particular geographical area in the southern part of Iran that today is called Fars. But back in ancient times, it was called Parsa. And that's where our word Persian comes from. It comes from Parsa. Now, that all changed in 1935 when the ruler of Persia, this guy, Reza Shah, asked all the governments around the world to please stop calling the country Persia and from now on call the country Iran. Now, Iran is the name of the country in the native languages of that country. So in the native language of Iran, or there are multiple native languages of Iran, but the main native language of Iran is called Persian or Farsi. I'll get to that in a minute. But in that native language, the name for the country is Iran. And so he was asking them to switch from using their native name for the country to using Iran, like the Persian name for the country. Now, it's not because there's anything wrong with using the word Persia. He wasn't asking them to do that because he was offended by the word Persia. That's not it. In fact, it's quite normal for countries to be named different things in different languages. Like, for example, we call China China, but that's not even remotely what the name for the country is in the Chinese language. In Mandarin, the name for China is Zhongguo. And it would be weird for us as English speakers to be like, oh, don't say China because that's not how they say it in Chinese. You're supposed to say Zhongguo all the time. Just say Zhongguo. Just use that in normal English conversation. Zhongguo, Zhongguo. But that's not what we do with any other countries. We don't say Deutschland when we're speaking English. We say Germany. So that's normal. It's normal for us to have a word for a country in our language that's different from the word for that country in the native language of that country. And Persia was the same way. We had the name Persia for the country, and then in the native language it was Iran. Now, the actual reason Reza Shah asked everyone to call his country Iran from now on instead of Persia, it was a marketing gimmick. He was trying to change the country's image, because at that time in the early 20th century, the country of Persia had a reputation for being kind of a declining empire. It was decadent, it was corrupt, it was weak. And Reza Shah had come to power in the 1920s with an idea that he was going to modernize Iran and make it a strong country again and adopt Western-style reforms in the country. So changing the name of the country was a way of modernizing the country's image. Because Iran, the word Iran was going to sound kind of new and sleek in the Western languages in the 1930s. So because of that, we now have two names for the country. There's Persia and there's Iran. Now, what about that Farsi business? So the country, the name of the country is Iran. That's the modern day name for the country. And then the historical name for the country is Persia. And then the language that's spoken there are actually a number of languages spoken in Iran. There's the main national language, which is the native language of about half the population. And then there are a bunch of other languages that are spoken in Iran by various language minorities. So the main language, which is the official language of the country, is the Persian language. Now, you might come across people nowadays who are like, don't say Persian, that language is not called Persian, it's called Farsi. And I'm not really sure where this comes from, why people feel like they have to call the language Farsi instead of Persian, because that's a little bit like insisting that you're never supposed to call the German language German, because in the native language of Germany it's referred to as Deutsch, and that therefore everyone should just call it Deutsch, whatever language they speak as their native language. We don't do that for other languages. We don't do that for the French language or the Russian language. We use the English name for that language. And I wonder if the reason some people feel like you can't say Persian for the language, you have to say Farsi, is that they're a little confused by Reza Shah's marketing gimmick, because they changed the name of the country. It's no longer called Persia, now it's called Iran. So there must have been something wrong with the word Persia. and that therefore there must be something wrong with the word Persian, like referring to the language as Persian. And we have to use the word Farsi for it. But actually, Persian and Farsi come from the same root. They both derive from that geographical area in southern Iran. So the modern region of Fars in southern Iran in ancient times was called Parsa, and then it turned into Pars, and then from Pars it turned into Fars. So Fars is the modern name for that province. So our name Persian comes from the ancient word for the province, and the word Farsi, which is used in modern Persian, refers to the modern name for the same province. So Farsi and Persian both derive from the same thing. They both refer to that same geographical region. So it's totally fine in the English language to when you're speaking English to refer to the Persian language as Persian or to refer to it as Farsi. Both of them are correct. What's actually happened is during the 20th century, the word Farsi has been adopted into the English language as an alternative name for the same thing as Persian, which creates confusion. It's unfortunate. We don't really have this for a lot of other languages. I guess in Spanish they have two different names for their language because they'll say Español or they'll say Castellano, and in some regions they'll use one or the other, and you have to know both names. I guess it's a little bit like that. Anyway, I hope that cleared up the confusion. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again later.